What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 546 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hey there.
And Robert A. Felice.
Hello, everyone.
And if you don't know what the hot tags are, too freaking bad. We are moving on. We got a lot to talk about for this edition, so we're going to break all that stuff down. We want to know what you have to... News. Yeah, it's pretty much is. But we got, and if you're reading the screen right now, it says all that stuff anyway. But we got lots to talk about. We want to know what you have to say about these things. Drop a comment below and keep the discussion going. While you're over there on YouTube in particular, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already, and ring that little notification bell. Hit the thanks button if you want to toss a little spare change our way to keep the lights on. Another way that you can take advantage of helping us out on the monetary side of things is the Patreon, or if you are still on YouTube there, click that little join button. It's the exact same thing as that. And we have the option of going live for like the Darkcast kind of thing, which, you know, if you are on the Darkcast here, you can take advantage of that whenever that happens. Figured that out before. So that is something to keep in mind. Also, TeePublic and Redbubble, if you want to pick up a sticker or a t-shirt or a shower curtain with some of these designs or something. Plenty of different options there. And anyway, even just listening to this episode helps out too. Also sharing it. So lots of buttons. Click on all of them except for unsubscribe and thumbs down. Do they actually, thumbs down button I don't think exists anymore, does it? I don't remember. It exists. Or they just don't show it.
It does
anything.
exist. Yeah, they just don't show. Yeah.
The public counter's gone.
Don't click on it anyway. Anyway, we got lots to talk about, as I said. So let's stop dawdling here and let's get into the big stories that we've got. Because we got a couple little ones. We got some major stories. Let's knock out a couple of the smaller ones, I think. And then we can start diving deep. So let's talk trademarks, because that's a good thing to kind of go, I don't know, and move on. But we talked before about the Ring of Honor logo that had been trademarked. It's a possibility of something, and I wasn't a big fan of it. It seemed a little bland, and now it looks like they might have another design option, which is much closer to what the Ring of Honor logo used to be prior to the one that was created by Pepper Pasquale, as he is on the site. It's kind of that blocky one that I've got for the mock draft, as you can see on like the right-hand side, the old school Ring of Honor thing, except it's just not slanted. So, I mean, I like it better but than the other trademark one, but I'm still not super duper feeling it. But what do you guys think about it?
I think that they will all be used in conjunction. Like one can just be a logo and the other one can be a more long form logo. It's fine.
Two logos?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, you could do different situations. I would say you'd probably have one main logo. I don't know whether this would be it, but it's not offensive. I don't think it's particularly memorable. It's probably not the best one they've ever had, but yeah, I mean, it works. It's fit for purpose.
Yeah, it's not the worst that I've ever seen. It's not the best, but I do like it better than the other one, so at least that's an upgrade in my mind. WWE trademark side of things, we got a couple here, and it seems like they are all heading towards, you know, naming some kind of a faction or a performer rather than, hey, WWE decided to trademark Clash at the Castle, which ends up being a pay-per-view or something. But Bloody Brutes. Now, Rob, I think it was, had said that your idea behind this is Grizzled Young Veterans. I am subscribing to the same thing. I think that that's probably what they're going to come back as. What about you, Callum?
Oh, yeah, that's 100% it. I couldn't imagine it being anything else.
There's Dyad, Dyad, and Schism.
I'm assuming that's an acronym. Like, there's no way that that's a person's name.
I think it's a group. Or at least, like, maybe the Dyad and Schism thing, they're two names that they're not sure which one they want to go with yet. I'm hoping it's not like when, like, Symbiosis and I'm blanking on what the other one was at the same time, but they came out and it was like, oh, it seems like these might be a little similar. Then ended up being the exact same, like, both of them are just, like, team names or whatever. I'm not a big fan of the Symbiosis name. I don't like the name Dyad or Schism for a faction or a group, or especially not if it's like a single performer.
I'd be interested in a single performer named Schism.
Well, unless it was somebody like a Mankind kind of character.
I'd be open to seeing a return to characters like that.
Because for anybody who doesn't just know offhand, Schism is like split. Dyad is, 2 kind of points. So it might be somebody who has like a split personality, or maybe it's somebody in like a faction with 2 people or something. But I don't want this to be, for instance, Damian Priest is renamed Schism because he's got the demon side and the angel side or anything like that. Like, I'm thinking that this is more on the NXT or NXT UK side.
You could just rename Ciampa Dyad.
I hope not.
I don't really trust it being just either an acronym or a faction group when somebody on the NXT roster is called Two Dimes.
This is true.
Well, that's a nickname for him because he's Troy Donovan.
But we only know him as Two Dimes.
Madcap. I mean, like,
yeah. It's not like he's called Troy 2 times Donovan. He's called two Dimes.
Wasn't he literally announced as or I mean, not announced in that way, but
you're not paying attention. You see that they just started calling him 2 Dimes. It's 2 Dimes in stacks.
I just assume that's like, hey, we're saying HBK instead of saying Shawn Michaels or something. I don't think, does he have a page on the website yet? I don't think so.
Nope.
Yeah, so I guess we're not going to know until they change that or whatever, but Dyad and Schism, something to look out for, as well as Ava Raine. Now, this is very clearly going to be somebody in the women's division. That's not going to be, a renaming of Akira Tozawa or someone. And this could be, maybe it's the new girl.
Someone, or do you think it's a new girl?
I think it might be the new girl, the one that's posing with Nikita Lyons.
Well, no, it could be anybody. They have so many women on that roster that have not been premiered on television yet.
Actually, how many of them really have, though? Because, a lot of them, like Kayla Inlay, they had already gone with the Kiana James name.
Honestly, Ava Raine can be the renaming of, Isla Dawn. Use that on the indies.
Actually, have they been renaming? They haven't been renaming the NXT UK people as much, only when they go over to NXT.
Isla Dawn can go over to NXT.
Technically, yeah, but I'm looking at the list right now. Most of them have new names already, like Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, Amari Miller. I think that's not her real name. I don't remember for sure about her. But yeah, I'm obviously
Zoe Starks or whatever.
I think it's Zoe Stark. That's a WWE name. Actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure every single person in NXT right now in the women's division, it's a WWE branded name.
Io Shirai.
Io Shirai, yeah, she's the only one, maybe. Actually, well, Indy Hartwell.
That's true as well. Well, was that her name on the indies as well?
Yeah, I guess so. She's Samantha DeMartin. Huh, yeah.
Good Lord, don't rename Indy.
She might be. Indy. I really hope we don't hear a whole, like, Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose had challenged, had kind of set up a whole feud within them, and then it's like, yeah, I do want to break off from my ex-husband now or whatever, and I'm going to rebrand myself and have the same goddamn promo that we've got like 5 or 6 times in this past month. Maybe it is her. I don't know. Ava Raine, though.
Yeah, I'm going with the rename more than a debut.
I guess we'll find out about that. We also have Sol Ruca, or Ruca. I'm assuming Ruca. SOLRUCA. No idea whatsoever about that one. That could be literally anybody. That's Gabe Y or David Bastian or whatever. No fucking clue. Bryson Montana, maybe. I don't think we have any kind of indication that can lead towards anything there, right?
Well, Bryson Montana is on the show tonight as Bryson Montana, isn't he?
Yeah, but Level Up doesn't count. They've had plenty of people wrestle like 7 times on there, then they've just rebranded them as something else.
Well, they also just trademarked Giovanni Vinci, which I feel like needs to be in the Wise Guys faction.
I think that's Fabian Eichner.
I thought so as well.
It makes sense.
Just act like he's not even Fabian Eichner anymore, because that's the name that, I mean, it's his real name, I'm pretty sure. And then they just bring him as that. He's got the Italian thing. He's a big guy. He could be the biggest dude in the faction. Giovanni Vinci, which is going to be so hard not to say like Giovanni da Vinci or something down the line. Let's move on to here's another little one. Kevin Nash is going to start a podcast with Sean Oliver. It's called Click This, KLIQ, and it's coming in July. I'm interested in check it out.
Love Sean Oliver. Love Kevin Nash. It's great.
You think you might give it a listen, Callum?
Nope.
Didn't think so for a second.
I didn't think so. I figured I'd ask. But yeah, I'm interested in checking that out. I'll at least listen to the first episode or two. As far as things coming up in the future to potentially watch, just for the sake of, hey, look at that, it's a wrestling thing, David Otunga is going to be appearing in some fashion, at the very least, it seems, in one scene, for She-Hulk Attorney at Law, the Marvel series that's coming to Disney Plus coming up soon, which, of course, if we are interested in more discussions of, the Marvel side of things, head on over to fanboysanonymous.com, because I could go super deep into just nerding out over, why is the Hulk got his arm is okay in this one, and he's not wearing the sling like he was in Shang-Chi and whatever. But first impressions of this She-Hulk thing, just to keep it, not getting too deep into fanboys, it looks like it's got the right tone and everything, but holy shit, does that CGI suck?
Yeah, it's not great.
It's pretty bad.
That's why they pushed it back.
Maybe so.
Maybe they worked on it a little bit. I like it. It looks like it'll be fun. I know you didn't like WandaVision as much as I did, but I like the more humorous side of things, and this one looks like it'll be more light.
And David Otunga, for anybody who didn't see the trailer, he pops up I guess I'll say this. For anybody who's not familiar with She-Hulk, I, of course, am not going to be the type of person who's like, issue number 12 of whatever. I don't fucking know that much. But She-Hulk is a character that's very interesting because it's an oddball comic. She breaks the fourth wall like Deadpool does. So I don't know how they're going to pull that off. They might do some kind of like House of Cards, look at the audience and address them kind of thing or something. I don't know. But one of the main things about the She-Hulk comics is pretty much that it's like a fetish, which is really weird. But like people get into the whole, death by snoo type of thing. And they're leaning heavily towards that, it seems, in this series as well. So she is going on a series of dates as She-Hulk, and there's plenty of like buff dudes and whatever, and she eventually, in this trailer, she takes one of them back home and she's like picking up the guy and whatever. And that's not who David Otunga is, but it looks like he's one of the people that she dates, and he's just like flexing his muscles and stuff. So David Otunga, I mean, he's a guy who's got some history in this kind of thing, and obviously
He's also an attorney,
big jack dude. So like, I'm curious, if they have some kind of thing where it's like that's a fellow attorney of hers or something that she meets or whatever. For all we know, he could be playing David Otunga. He might be literally, okay, well, you're a former wrestler and that's why you're jacked, and you're a former attorney and that's why you know Jennifer Walters or something. I don't think so. I'm assuming he is just playing a character of guy that she dates in one scene.
Leads to more work for him, by all means.
And credit to him, he looks exactly the same as he did like a decade ago. So
I like Otunga.
Yeah, kind of interesting. And this is not something that I think would lean towards the okay, that means that Callum's going to watch it side. But I'll ask: are you going to check it out, Callum?
Why?
It's unlikely. I mean, I saw the trailer. It seems like it'd be a funny show. Again, the CGI does look terrible in its current state, but hopefully they can fix that. I don't know enough about the She-Hulk character beyond what you've kind of just described here. Based on that description, it seems like it's her catchphrase. You'll like me when I'm horny. Is that basically
it is. You'll like me when I'm angry. But yeah, along the lines.
Yeah, she is a character that if you were to just like grab one of those comics from back in the day and be reading that, people would like overlook that and be like, okay, this guy's reading some kind of smut or whatever. Like they have plenty of panels on there where, you know, it's a satire of the way that like people draw women in comics and everything. So unless you know, it just comes off as if you're reading that kind of material. And she joined the Fantastic Four for a little bit. She was a replacement for the Thing. That's interesting, but I'm excited about it because it's a Marvel series, and even if it's shit, I'm always going to see the Marvel things. But I won't be checking out what Miro is popping on. CBS has a series called East New York, and I've never heard of it until Callum mentioned it right before we got started here. But he's apparently going to be popping up on that. You know what he's like playing or anything?
I only know his character's name is going to be called Nikolai Dushkin.
And he's Irish.
That's.
I think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be like a long-term character, because in the little trailer clip they showed of it, it's him demanding that he sees his lawyer. So I assume he's just going to be like a criminal that appears in 1 or 2 episodes. But we don't know. We won't know, and realistically, neither of us are going to check it out. So. But it's just cool that he's getting an acting gig. He does have a lot of personality. So this would also explain part of the reason why he's probably been off TV for as long as he has.
I'm not crazy about like law dramas and cop shows, but who knows? Maybe I'll check it out if it's really good.
What else can we knock out on the quick side of things? This one, I guess, might be kind of on the quick side. According to Dave Meltzer, the Harlan character had been handpicked by Edge to join the Judgment Day. And then they found out something about Parker Boudreaux's past that was bad enough to fire him. And that's the reason why he was let go. Hasn't indicated exactly what that might be. But, I mean, that kind of explains the sudden, drastic, okay, he's gone after just being a featured person. Then again, they did the same thing with Draco Anthony. They just dropped him instead of making him the replacement or something. So, I don't know. I mean, Meltzer stuff, you got to take with a grain of salt, just like anything else. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I don't think Harlan would have been a good fit for the Judgment Day, so while I'm not happy that he has something in his past that sucks. That was
essentially what he was doing anyway.
Yeah, but I didn't think that he was really a good fit for the Joe Gacy thing either. I didn't really feel that character pretty much at all. So I guess it's slightly better that he didn't already join that and then end up being like, okay, now we're just going to nix him and move on to somebody else. Better to get ahead of it, you know?
Sure. I mean, I have no dog in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say with any certainty of like whether it's something to do with something he said, or I mean, you wouldn't put it past WWE of something like they've spotted something in his history on social media or something like that, and they want to jump on it before it can spiral out of control, and that could be the reason why he was released. And you also wouldn't put it past the idea of him just being immediately called up after really doing nothing of note in NXT just to be part of this faction, because they have fast-tracked people beforehand. I mean, probably look at Braun Strowman as one of the biggest examples of that.
Sure.
Yeah, he was one of the last, like, he didn't even appear on NXT, he just showed up in the main roster.
Yeah, so I don't think that what Meltzer is claiming is like out of the realms of possibility, but I guess you won't know until more information is verifiable one way or the other on that front. I mean, you wouldn't imagine that Parker Boudreaux would be one that, because of the short time he was in WWE, wouldn't be too fussed about breaking his silence about what the issues were if the opportunity arises.
Yeah, something to pay attention to for the future, at least.
Edge has been having a lot of fun on social media, tweeting out pictures of people. Ciampa, and then Paige, and then Corey Graves. You think there's any chance that Paige ever wrestles again in the coming year?
No. I could see her being more of like a manager type if she joins that. Like maybe she's just another mouthpiece, but I don't think she's wrestling ever again.
I never say never, but I think it's just fun that Edge is playing along with this stuff.
Corey would be interested in. I still think that they should have had him in the Royal Rumble, but yeah, another story for another day. Let's talk about Wrestling Entertainment Series. We know their commentary team, or at least two members of it. We got Drama King Matt, or Matthew Raywolt. Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, Aiden English from NXT time frame, and I guess the WWE too. And Jonathan Coachman. That is going to be their commentary team, as currently announced. And we also know what their first pay-per-view card is going to be. We're going to give you a little rundown of that. But before we get into that, the commentary team, what do you guys think? Coachman and in English. I like it.
It's the least insane part of this card.
I mean, Coach is not a good commentator. But at least his most recent standards in WWE, maybe it'll be better when he doesn't have a 70-year-old man screaming in his ear. For ages, but yeah, I mean, Aiden English, I'm totally down for. I would hope for their sake they have a third and potentially stronger voice to kind of anchor those two. My worry is that stronger voice will be Matt Striker. So yeah, that'd be another thing that knocks it down potentially.
I've always liked Matt Strikers. I'll disagree on that front, but here's the card that they're advertising right now. We got two matches for a pre-show: Mike Bennett versus Biff Busick. For anybody who doesn't know, it's Oney Lorcan, and Dirty Dango, aka Fandango, against No Way Jose. He's going by is it Levi?
This is his real name.
Is that how you pronounce it? Levi, or it's Levis? I don't know if it's Levis. I highly doubt it. I think it's probably Levi. Valenzuela Jr. Yeah, so No Way Jose against Fandango and Mike Kanellis against Oney Lorcan. Look, I enjoy some of these guys, obviously. Like, I mean, Fandango was a lot of fun. No Way Jose had some upsides to him. Oney Lorcan is an interesting character. But remember, this was being advertised as like the biggest names in wrestling or whatever, and I don't know. It's the same old.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. You're acting like you really expected them to pull out Ric Flair here, and like they have to advertise.
We will talk about Ric Flair, but I mean, it's that hyperbole that I just don't get on board with. Yeah, but I mean, but I just roll my eyes at that kind of stuff. I do it with WWE. I do it with AEW, whatever that is. I do it with a fucking advertisement for Burger King where it's like, the best tasting sandwich in the world. It's like, yeah, you're Burger King. You're not even the best out of the fast food burger restaurants. It's Wendy's. But like, but like, you're not gonna, of course, look at a card like this, which we'll get more into, and think that it's some shitty little indie thing, because these are actually names that have more established. But it does make me go, why would I spend the money for it? Like, I mean, the free live pre-show at the very least. Oh, wait, no, that's happening the same night as In Your House, isn't it? Yeah.
Really? I mean,
I think this is June 4th.
Yeah. It's
so,
June 4th, yeah.
Yep, June 4th. So I'm not watching this live for sure because I'm watching In Your House. But
this is happening in the UK, so it'll be on.
I think in the UK it's probably earlier.
It'll be
then maybe I will. At least watch the pre-show. But those are two matches. We got Mojo Rawley, Dean Mutati against Lince Dorado.
There's a lot of things in this card which is a bit crazy, but I'm shocked that that's on the main show and Mike Bennett versus Biff Busick is on the pre-show, because that'll be a much better match than Dorado
and Mutati.
Yeah.
Maybe this is on the main show as one of the filler buffer break matches, and that's why.
Potentially.
Because it seems like the other ones are, of course, they have bigger names. They got bigger things. Sorry about the ambulance in the background. We got the Women's World Tag Team Championship. So they are already going with, we're having women's tag titles. And you got Madison Raine and Tennille Dashwood against Deonna Purrazzo and Chelsea Green. Big names.
Yeah, that's pretty big for the women's side of things.
Now,
like
are those going to be women tag team titles, or are they just like, hey, you want to have a knockouts tag title match?
Well, it would say knockouts tag titles, surely. That was the case. I think it's. I think they have their own distinct, because they seem to be going with the route of, based on what this card is, men's world champion, women's world champion, men's tag champions, women's tag champions, and no mid card championship. So, but yeah, this makes sense. You got the Impact women's champions, knockouts champion, should I say, in Madison and Tenille, and you got Deonna Purrazzo, who's well established as one of the top women's wrestlers in the world, and she's best friends with Chelsea Green outside of this, or just in general anyway. So yeah, this is a natural pairing. The two, I don't know which is playing babyface though in this, which is the interesting one.
I don't know if they're even going to bother with babyface and heel, actually.
Well, judging by the headliner, everybody here controls the narrative.
I'm thinking Purrazzo and Green win this. As far as general predictions
they should be the knockout tag champions. If you've got them on your card, I'd put belts on them.
We got a triple threat between Killer Cross, not Karrion Kross, Samurai Del Sol, not Kalisto, and Jonah, not Bronson Reed. Two big guys and Kalisto.
Kalisto's going to get thrown around.
Kind of would have made a little bit more sense to me if they would have just had Cross against Jonah, but I guess they plan on tossing.
Tag title match.
Tag title match is Blake and Macklin, so the Forgotten Sons minus the guy that got the Forgotten Sons fired, and the Legion of Pain, as they were calling themselves, which is Authors of Pain, and they got the whole Legion of Doom connection there. That's the World Tag Team title. So
now I dare say, perhaps you were better off, I don't know, maybe doing Cross and Jonah one-on-one and putting the Lucha House Party in that match and making it a three-way. You got Lindsay and you got Kalisto. I'd put them as a team.
I think that would have made sense. And Mojo Rawley could have... I don't know what
or maybe Mojo could have been the third. It could have been a Haas triple threat.
Yeah, so of course I'm thinking Legion of Pain wins those tag titles. It's their event, so that's the thing. We get the Women's World Championship is Nia Jax against Lana.
Why isn't this a tables match?
That's probably not going to be very good.
I like how you said the word probably.
I mean, it's one of those things that, again, my mind just assumes that it's going to be bad because of the two people involved. They just go, well, Ty Conti was terrible in WWE, and then she comes to AEW and she's actually pretty good. Just like maybe outside of WWE, they'll actually be able to do more. Again, you always have to take it with some sort of degree of skepticism that maybe they told Nia Jax that she has to wrestle like as a big person, and so she has to limit her moveset. And maybe they told Lana that you need to act like you're scared all the time, or that you can't really do as much as you can do. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm probably skeptical, though, that this will be anything decent, and that at least one of the competitors will come out in one piece.
On the whole, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Trying to find what the original thing was here, because there was a thing where when they were advertising this, one of the matches was mislabeled. I'm trying to remember which one it was. But that's what it was. Mojo Rawley against Lindsay Dorado for the World Women's Tag Team title. So that was funny. I'm like, all right, well, they're going in a weird direction here. And then there's also the World Championship. It's Alistair Overeem against Adam the Titan Scher, otherwise known as Braun Strowman.
Why is Alistair Overeem fighting Braun Strowman?
The two big guys. Yeah. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's a main event.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who I would think would actually win that, funny enough. So I was not expecting Overeem to be on this card,
I mean, the the real, like, you'd assume it's going to be Cher because of the fact that he is actually a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we don't know how much they're doing of this, and if they are planning on doing shows in Dubai, or at least one show in Dubai going forward, then maybe Overeem is a bigger name in general. But again, Braun Strowman is the Saudi Arabia champion, so
That's right.
Yeah.
do you think he has that belt?
No. Not a chance.
I think the Saudi prince has that belt.
I think that is one of those things that, like, they had him hold it in the ring. He handed it back, and he never even saw it backstage ever again. They just threw it in one of those locker things, put it in storage, and the end. Yeah.
But it'll be an interesting match because, like, this is Overeem's first wrestling match. Obviously, he has a very, very accomplished fighting background in many different styles, but we've never seen him actually have a match. So and it's not like Braun Strowman is a Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart type person who can carry an entire match on his own. So I'll be interested to see, first of all, how well it works together and how long it goes, because I can imagine it's somewhere in the sub 5-minute mark.
It's going to be the 60-minute Iron Man match.
The crazy thing about this is Overeem has said some wild stuff about professional wrestlers and professional wrestling fans. Not borderline, just like straight up some homophobic remarks regarding pro wrestlers and pro wrestling fans. And now it's like, okay, cool. You're one of those guys who's just going to talk all that and then do it, because I'm sure they're paying you pretty well.
What did he say in the past without necessarily directly quoting it?
Something about, like, the standard MMA people saying wrestling is that's super gay, and I can't believe people waste their time with this, that sort of thing.
The sweaty men in their underwear rolling around kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, he's one of those, like you said. So, I mean, this is in your house at the same time, at the very least. It might not be the same exact time, but same day.
Not in my house. Is this in your house now?
It might be. I mean, I might find a stream or something. I can't imagine that I would be spending the money for it, though. But if you are interested in spending the money for it and, you check it out, let us know what you think. June 4th is when it's coming up, so we'll see what happens if we see it or not.
And just to properly say what Overeem said, the wrestling thing, I watched it when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, huge fan of those guys. Honky Tonk Man, great, funny. Andre, I stopped watching after that. And I look at it now and it's fake, it's lame, it's stupid, it's gay, it doesn't make any sense. So that's who could potentially be your World Wrestling Entertainment Series world champion.
Yep, because everything that Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior does screams reality to me.
Yeah. You didn't even tell me that they didn't actually do all those things. I'm sure that Pastamania wasn't the best thing in the world and everything too. And yeah. Well, that is something that's coming up. And before we move on to some of these super big topics, let's talk about one more thing here that is on that extra, not WWE, AEW side of things, but you mentioned it. I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to advertise Ric Flair? Well, Ric Flair stepping back in the ring.
Conrad Thompson will advertise Ric Flair for StarCast.
He is going to have another match, and there was speculation that it was going to be against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Seems like maybe that's not necessarily happening now, but I don't know about that.
Steamboat has since said no. The match reportedly that was pitched was Flair and FTR against Steamboat and the Rock and Roll Express. I think that's awesome. I hope that Steamboat still does the match. But if he doesn't and we're still looking at a 6-man, we know very well that Sting can go. So it should be Sting and the Rock and Roll Express against FTR and Ric Flair. I'm actually fully in support of this. It's okay, we get a payday out of it. We're billing it as his last final match ever. I'm sure he wants the opportunity to soak in the glory. He even said, I'm not doing this for money. I just want the glory. You know, I'm sure it'll be great.
I'm not sure it'll be great, but how do you feel about this, Cal?
I can't say the match would be particularly good, but then again, it can't be too much worse than Ric Flair's current final match, which is it's some shitty thing in TNA.
I believe he wrestled Sting.
Was that his final match?
I thought so.
I thought he had one more after that, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, I think when you get to the status that Ric Flair has as a wrestling legend, just one of the greatest of all time, you can kind of pick and choose when you're gonna have your final match. And if you are gonna like help prop up the match by actually giving the fans some people that can actually still go, like FTR obviously can go. They're one of the best tag teams in the world right now, and the Rock and Roll Express can still do stuff. If you did get Sting involved, then that would be cool. But yeah, I don't imagine the match or anything that Ric Flair does will be particularly great. If he takes the bump off the top rope, that would terrify me. but yeah, I think he's kind of that level that, yeah, if he wants to come back for one more match, just do it. Everyone will be happy to see him. Well, depending on how you view him right now, but people will cheer him. They'll be
nobody's not gonna say woo. Nobody's not gonna know go all into the moment. Yeah, his last match was in fact against Sting. It was in September of 2011. He had a Lethal Lockdown before that. Triple threat street fight with, get this, AJ Styles and Matt Hardy. And then, believe it or not, the second to last person to face Ric Flair in a one-on-one match was Doug Williams.
TNA.
Yeah, it's such an anomaly because it's like there's some great stuff here, like Kurt Angle versus Ric Flair, Foley versus Ric Flair, but it's still TNA, so it's just like, yeah, I can see Ric Flair wanting to do another match.
I mean, you're also saying there's great stuff here. It's great because of the names. You actually you haven't watched the match, so, or you haven't for several years. So
it's been a while.
Yeah. So I imagine that they look better on paper than they do in reality.
I think this will be another one of those scenarios, but at the same time, again, it's StarCast. It's, they're promoting it under Jim Crockett Promotions, which is just so much fun. Like, it's just a final chance to give Ric Flair a moment in the sun. And he can have that, you know what I mean? Like, give him his moment. This better be it, because we don't need him wrestling at 75. But give him his moment.
It wouldn't shock me if it's just another match and another match and another match, but I hope it goes well. I don't know. We'll see. StarCast is coming up, of course, in a few months, so he's got some time to figure out what the actual match is going to be. If it's a 6-man tag, it's a lot better than if it's a singles match, that's for sure. And I actually forgot to mention this when we were talking about the TV talk. I wanted to tie that into that, but totally forgot to transition over to it. Young Rock is not going to get renewed for another season beyond the season that it's in right now, because it is being moved over to Friday nights at the same time that SmackDown is on. And for anybody who doesn't follow, like Showbuzz Daily or anything like that, this is a graveyard slot. Well, I mean, the season that we're going to be getting, that's going to be the end one. That's definitely not going to be renewed for a 4th season, because that's the slot that you put that in for shows to die. The graveyard slot does not work out for almost anything. And it's the type of thing where their philosophy is basically, look, it's doing well enough that maybe by the 2nd season we have loyal, dedicated followers that will continue and carry it on no matter where it is. but it's not doing well enough that we want to give it a prime spot anymore. And we would rather give it to a brand new show and try to strike while the iron is hot on something that who knows what the potential is, rather than to continue to keep something that is, more than likely, shows tend to wane over time. They don't tend to increase their followers beyond that second season. That's why they call it the sophomore slump. You either you got a good start and you've got a huge hit like a Game of Thrones type of thing, which I've never seen a single episode of, or you didn't work out and you're canceled, or it's like, all right, well, maybe the second season people have heard about it the first time and let's see what the ratings are. They know what their audience is for Young Rock right now. And for that third season, it's going to have less than what they were getting for the second season, because you're moving it at the same time that the core audience is watching SmackDown. It is a bonkers, stupid move where they're going to essentially slaughter the ratings, and then they're going to say, well, it didn't do all that well, we're not going to get a fourth season out of it. It's a guarantee. I am telling you it's going to happen. If it doesn't, and they end up getting renewed for a fourth season, I mean, I don't know. I'll figure something out that I'll do that'll be stupid as all hell, because I would bet so much on that being the case. I enjoy Young Rock. It's not the best show I've ever seen, but when they do the pro wrestling stuff, and they had Macho Man Randy Savage flipping out over how great Sears is on this most recent episode. It's a fun show for pro wrestling fans, and people aren't going to be watching it live when they're watching SmackDown, because the people that are actually interested in watching Young Rock are the supremely dedicated fans, aka the more casual but super into wrestling side of things, that would be watching SmackDown. So it's something that, I don't know, they're shooting themselves in the foot for this one, but I'm sure that you guys don't have any much really to add to it. It was just something I wanted to rant about. Fucking producers and executives.
Strong in that statement. So I hope for your sake that you're not, dead wrong. But yeah, I think it's a weird move, but whatever. It's a fun show, and I'll keep watching it as long as it's on Peacock the next day, because I'm not gonna watch it live. I don't watch it live now.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't care less. So
I'm curious, I don't watch TV shows like this live anyway, and I'm, one of the only people that's out there saying, hey, people should watch this. It just goes to show what that is. But it's Tuesdays at 8, which is currently, going against the NXT side of things. But then Tuesday is a different thing than Friday. For anybody who's going to be like, well, see, look at that. And NXT is a different thing from SmackDown. So you're going to have a decrease in that.
USA is a different thing from Fox.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's multiple stages of this being like that. But the thing that drives me crazy about the way that, NBC and these other places, they act with these old mentalities where they're like, okay, well, TV doesn't start until 8. I mean, people watch TV differently but than what they used to. Nielsen ratings aren't the way that is. Why not move it to fucking 7:30 on Tuesdays and have it be a lead-in to NXT? In a sense. Put it on USA, even, if you wanted to do that. I mean, I still think that it would have been great if NXT would have been on NBC and they would have gotten that kind of thing, but of course, that wasn't going to happen. But that's something that I'm thinking. I don't know. Something I wanted to mention. Basically, we're on the death knell side of things for Young Rock, so enjoy it while it lasts, everybody. But before we move on to these big topics, let me just tell you about something that we have been mentioning here and there all the time. How our sponsors for these episodes, Manscaped. I don't like the way that they are moving Young Rock, but I do like Manscaped. Actually, love the Manscaped products that I've tried. And if you want to love those products too, then order whatever it is that you want on the website, because it's all great, and use that promo code SMARK, SMARK, get 20% off and free shipping with everything that is going on with that. And that way you let them know that, we were the reason why you ended up popping over there. But we've mentioned it before. Our different products that we've tried have been all fantastic. I love the lawnmower. I'm a big fan of. I used I think like 7 products yesterday alone. I had the lawnmower. I used the crop cleanser. I used the ball deodorant, the weed whacker, and the what was it? The other thing, I'm blanking on what the other one was. I don't know. The body wash, actually, and the shampoo. So I did all that kind of thing. Just like full on Manscaped mode right now. But you still got that option for the free gifts, for the free boxers and the toiletry bag if you order the Performance Package 4.0 or the Perfect Package 4.0. Yeah, Father's Day coming up. It's Father's Day special. So if you got somebody who you want to pick up that for, it's a great purchase and a great gift to get because you know that it's going to be quality stuff. You got that advanced skin safe technology. You're not going to end up getting nicks like you would with other kind of products. I can attest to that after having this for quite a while and not getting a single thing like that, even though I used my regular razor yesterday and got a little bit of a cut on my face. So, if you want to pick up some great stuff and you want to make sure that it is going to be on the cheaper side, then use that promo code SMARK. And we want to thank you for picking that up. We want to thank Manscaped for sponsoring us. And we're going to move on here to the main topics that we got, which is a lot to get into. Where do you guys want to start? Because we got Sasha Banks and Naomi. We've got Stephanie McMahon leaving.
We know less about Stephanie, so maybe that's quicker.
Okay, so Stephanie tweeted out that she is taking a leave of absence from the majority of her responsibilities at WWE to spend time focusing on her family. We don't know much about this, so everything, of course, that we say, speculation, hearsay, rumors, bullshit, whatever. Just be honest about it. But my gut reaction was, oh, damn, I hope that this doesn't mean that Triple H is in worse shape than we even thought.
My gut reaction was immediately, I hope everybody's okay. And the last time an executive randomly took a leave of absence like this, it was Hunter. I just hope everybody's doing all right and things are good on the home front. And yeah, I just hope that everyone's good.
Yeah, I don't even want to speculate about the health of Triple H, and that's been the reason behind Stephanie McMahon leaving. Again, it's just one of those things that maybe she just wants a break. She's been working pretty much very heavily in the company for the past 20 plus years, so maybe she just wants to take a bit of time away for a little while. Similarly to, like, maybe not in the same way that Shane took a break, but again, it can wear out on you. So, yeah, that's completely understandable. The most interesting thing of this entire, outside just the fact that Stephanie's going, and obviously she's a man, and that feels like a big deal, is that Nick Khan's taking all of her responsibilities, or at least seems to be taking on a lot of her roles during her absence.
I laughed at the image I saw of the, that thing on Mortal Kombat. Yeah. Where it's just like, okay, he's passed by Triple H, he's passed by Stephanie, then the top level, Shang Tsung kind of thing with Vince McMahon.
I liked the tweet that I saw is that Nick Khan has merged the roles of Chief Brand Officer, Chief Executive Officer, President, Chief Revenue Officer, Vince McMahon's son-in-law and daughter in all one role.
Be honest, and son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
That's the thing is with a story like this that we just flat out don't know what's going on. People are going to jump to different conclusions. And like I said, my gut reaction was, I hope that this doesn't mean Triple H is like, okay, well, we got some bad news with your heart. And that was like a wake up call to be like, crap, I got to spend as much time with my husband as I can while I can, or something like that. But I've had people that I'm seeing tweeting out, oh, this means that they're getting a divorce. And I've had people be like, this means that she's leaving the company. And then other people are like, this means that Vince McMahon is firing her. And it's 90% of it would be probably completely wrong just to even speculate about. But I mean, it's just another one of those things. It's like the best case scenario realistically speaking, is that she realized, man, I don't want to fucking work all the time. I want to have fun with my life.
Yep.
And we're at a time frame where we don't fucking care what the product is. Because let's be honest, I mean, Roman Reigns is going to be taking time off, and Hell in a Cell's not looking all that great, and Money in the Bank is going to be another one of those things where it's like, you're going to watch it because it's Money in the Bank. And if you don't watch it, you're an asshole and not a good fan. And that's basically the way that WWE is treating these things, where I am kind of assuming that everybody is sort of looking at this as like, I mean, we don't have to do anything until July. You know, like, we got to wait until SummerSlam and Clash at the Castle. Those are the two stadium shows. Those are the only ones that matter. In the meantime, we can spend the next 2 months fucking off and doing whatever. If that's the best case scenario, is that Stephanie's like, I mean, none of this shit matters until SummerSlam. I guess I'll take off time now. Then that's like, oh man, that's not a good sign for that too. That's a good sign for her at the very least to be like having that wake up call, because you only get one chance to enjoy your life. But that's what I'm hoping at the very least, is that she was just sort of like, okay, maybe that was a little bit of a wake up call with Triple H. And I think her oldest daughter's 18 now, right? Somewhere around that. Or like,
no, I think she's maybe 16,
17, right? But she's like at an age where it's like, okay, like let's spend time with my kids in a different way than let's watch, you know, the toddlers running around kind of thing. But like, let's have a deeper connection on that. And then she's got, you know, the other younger kids as well. But that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping it's not one of those bad stories where we do get some kind of thing in a couple weeks or a couple months where it's like, yeah, they were having marital disputes, or oh man, it was some kind of big health issue with whatever or something. It is interesting to see though, like, that's not another good thing for WWE to just be like, all right, Stephanie's not going to be around, so then how do we spin this, or what do we talk about on the next investor call where they go, oh, you know, Stephanie was whatever or something, if somebody actually has the guts to ask.
Because you would think at this point they would, because this isn't like, oh, Stephanie's leaving, who's gonna write SmackDown? That's your chief brand officer, and
yeah.
also like heavily hinted at taking the reins at one point in time. So maybe we will get questions about it. It's my hope that she was just like, you know what? I want to take a break. Even if she's going to be gone for a few years. Like, I want to experience other things outside of just WWE. Which is, everyone should do that, you know? Like, not everyone should be like Vince and start a bodybuilding fed in a football league. But everyone should experience different paths in life. So if that's what this is, you know, great for her. It's coming at such a weird time.
Real quick, you know? XFL got that Disney Plus kind of deal or whatever it is. Something. Anyway.
That's true. It's coming at such a weird time, you know? And like we keep repeating, as long as everyone's good and everyone's happy, then cheers to them.
Man, I had never heard of this Nick Khan guy until it was just sort of like, by the way, whoosh, he just gets all these things, you know? It's strange. I don't know. And then
Barrios and Michelle Wilson, they're gone.
Yeah.
Khan, you know, he is going to be someone that's pivotal to the company just moving forward.
Any other thoughts you got on this, Callum, before we move on?
Not particularly. The only thing that gives me pause for is the fact that she felt the need to have to tweet out about it.
Right.
Which makes you feel like the leave absence is going to be fairly lengthy. But again, don't want to speculate too much. But yeah, well, hopefully everything's all good. And to be fair, I don't really care if we see her back anytime soon. Just to be brutally honest about it, I don't think she's adding much behind the scenes. Well, she maybe she's doing more behind the scenes I don't know about, but like I don't know how much. She doesn't really have any influence on the TV product now, so it doesn't really bother me one way or the other whether she is in the company or not.
This is the least amount of McMahon's ever working for WWE, isn't it?
I mean, outside of when it was like when Stephanie was young and whatever.
Well, no, because even Linda was working there. There's one.
Maybe when it was just Vince and Kay McMahon.
Yeah, like that, and that's it. And he probably wasn't deferring a lot of decision making to another guy, but that to me stuck out more than anything was that like there's barely any McMahon presence behind the scenes if this is the case.
Well, as Mark Henry would say, it's time for the main event. Let's talk about Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out on Monday Night Raw. Not much has come out since this happened, but if you are to believe what some of the reports are, which some of them have not been verified, some of them have been by trustworthy things, and some of them just make a lot of sense and whatever. I mean, she, being Sasha Banks, seems to be having most of the heat on her, and people are kind of saying that, like, she goaded Naomi into walking out and not really well liked backstage and doesn't have a whole lot of support from the talent and whatever. But if this is the truth, which I'm inclined to believe, where the game plan was, hey, we got this random 6-pack challenge, Sasha Banks and Naomi are going to win number 1 contenders matches where Naomi is going to fight Bianca Belair at Hell in a Cell and Ronda Rousey is going to fight Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell. And for the next couple weeks, we're going to lead into that. You guys are going to lose, and then we're going to move back to the tag team title situation. We'll just ignore it in the meantime. And wouldn't that be interesting if our 2 world champions beat the 2 tag team champions thing? Supposedly that was the game plan, and Sasha Banks and Naomi went up to different members of the producers and creative and Vince and such and John Laurinaitis and complained, said that that's bullshit and that doesn't make any sense, and why are you ignoring the tag titles, and why are we just winning this to lose, and so on and so forth. And then eventually decided, all right, well, we were told to suck it up and stop having an attitude, and we just decided, fuck it, we don't want
attitudes.
Yeah, we just don't want to deal with that. So here's the titles, and we're gonna leave. I think that this is one of those stories that I feel a lot of people are very like, okay, I'm going to believe what I want to believe, and this is the way that I think, and that's the end of it, and it's black and white scenario. And that's the way that a lot of people are these days, and we could talk about that ad nauseum, but just how people jump to conclusions and then they just whatever. Nobody acknowledges gray areas and any shit like that anymore. It's just the way the society is. It's fucking terrible. But gray area positives and gray area negatives in this. If this is all true or whatever, I support Sasha Banks and Naomi saying, the fuck are we doing that for? But I kind of don't support the idea of them being like, all right, we're just going to leave and have you high and dry. I don't know how I would have approached this situation if I were in their shoes. Maybe that is the best way of doing it, just to prove a statement or whatever. I kind of don't support the idea that the talent wouldn't support them a little bit. And I feel like maybe people aren't looking at that in the right viewpoint to say like, wow, you're being spoiled and you should be happy that you're getting a tag title, a world title shot, whatever. And plenty of other people would kill for that chance. And then it's like, well, then why don't you give them the chance? You know, that kind of thing. I think you can spin this in a lot of different ways, but how are you guys kind of thinking about this scenario?
Well, before we get into that spin, we have to talk about the official statement that WWE released, which was probably the thing that made everybody feel the most awkward about this, is that before the show's even out, they released a statement that said, when Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon, they were informed of their participation in the main event of tonight's Monday Night Raw. During the broadcast, they walked into Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand, placed their tag belts on his desk, and walked out. They claimed they weren't respected enough as tag champions, and even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with two of their opponents, even though they'd wrestled matches with those individuals in the past with no consequence. Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract. We regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event. This is funny for a multitude of reasons. First of all, let's start with that closing line. We regret that we were unable to deliver tonight's main event as advertised. It wasn't advertised till the show was on the fucking air. We know that because we cover the show, and they didn't announce a six-pack all week. So for you to do that, they're clearly spinning a narrative that, like, yeah, Sasha and Naomi are being unprofessional here. Now, they placed the tag belts on his desk and walked out. I think that even if they're back next week, I think the tag belts are going away because obviously they're not feeling respected and they don't respect the division. There's like 3 teams total. And this is a great excuse to kind of move past that as is. WWE acknowledging that they're fake is something that they don't do like this. They've done it. They do it plenty on, investor calls and stuff. But this is like, hey, they're actors, and the actors won't do the role that we want them to do. I think that that's interesting. And then, of course, there's just the whole, well, were they uncomfortable? Because as this statement says, they have worked with everybody, and there's no abhorrent scene like the whole Charlotte and Nia Jax things where you go, well, that felt weird. There was nothing off last week when they worked Doudrop and Nikki, right? Or I assume it would be Doudrop and Nikki, not Asuka or Becky, because they haven't had matches with Asuka and Becky recently. But there's so much here. And the only thing we know for sure is they did walk out. They gave Laurinaitis their belts. They might be in contract negotiations. That's come out in recent days. But this whole thing looks like a mess at a time where everything in WWE looks like shit.
We're going to bounce around to some of these topics again. I'm writing them down separately to just be like, okay, let's dive deeper into that. But generally speaking, Callum, what are your thoughts about this whole scenario?
So the press release WWE put out is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just from top to bottom, the phrasing of them arriving and finding out they're going to be the main event, and then supposedly having 8 hours to prepare and rehearse it, which is pretty much like mathematically impossible due to the time frames, unless they arrived bang on like 12 or between 12 and 2, and they was immediately told, and then they wouldn't be able to rehearse it in the ring past 8 when the show started. So, but again, and presumably in the hour or so before that when fans were filtering into the arena. So, okay. But that's neither here nor there. It's more about the whole, because every single report that's come out since, or in the initial, before the press release put out, said that they left before the show started. They didn't leave during the broadcast. They left before the show started. So that means WWE willingly announced that the main event was going to be a 6-pack challenge, knowing, maybe not knowing it precisely at that time, but knowing pretty soon enough afterwards that they were gone and they weren't going to be competing in the match. And so they put that advertisement out there, just say they've advertised it so they could bury them even further. Talk about how they're unhappy about not being able to bring the scheduled main event, even though WWE, as a habit, does not deliver on their main events.
Yeah, they actively, purposely don't do that on the regular basis for things that they advertise weeks in advance. Not even like, you just happen to do that.
But now they're disappointed about it because now they have something to go up against. And this statement about not being safe to work with anyone, at least according to what the Fightful Select report says, that was directed towards Becky Lynch and Asuka. Because Banks and Naomi apparently wanted to run a program with Doudrop and Nikki ASH over the tag team titles. That was the thing that they wanted to do leading into Hell in a Cell, and that was shot down. Then they suggested that, okay, if we're going to be challenging for the women's titles, then can we have Nikki and Doudrop interfere, and that set in motion towards Money in the Bank, a title match. Apparently that was shot down as well. And fundamentally, it comes down to the fact that everyone believes that everyone just wants to be the world champion. And again, that's a big deal. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be chasing after the Raw and SmackDown women's title, but they are the women's tag team champions, and so quite understandably, they want to be in feuds with women's tag teams over the women's tag team championships. That's what they want their role to be right now. And then when their run ends, or they feud with some people, and then they separate, become singles people again, then they're going after the world titles again, or they're going to move into other feuds. But it's quite clear there's zero direction, there's zero care about this division whatsoever. They see it, they decide to fight against it, and that seems to be the real crux of the walkout. It's probably, by the nature of it, it's probably been something that's been under the surface for a long time, and this was just the spark that set them off, or at least based on what seems to be the case, because it seems like a very rash decision if this was the first time that they said, oh no, we're not actually going to do anything with the tag titles, and then they just went, oh okay, well we're just going straight away. It's just like, it feels like something was bubbling under the surface for a long time, and this just set them off. And yeah, I understand the reasoning behind it. Don't get me wrong, it is a completely unprofessional thing to do, and it completely pulls the rug under the people who are expecting to work with you later on in the show in that match. I mean, you feel bad probably most for Doudrop and Nikki, because they didn't even appear on the show after that point, so their opportunity to be in that match just got taken away from them, their opportunity to perform. So it's unprofessional in that regards, but if you are in an environment which is basically expecting you to do your job and just not be receptive to any form of criticism or different suggestions, and you feel like this is the only way that you can actually build up some buzz and get your voice heard, then I don't really blame them for taking the steps that they did.
So let's go back to some of these things and start getting a little bit deeper into the way that some of these are. We're going to repeat some of the things that we have already said, but I think we need to touch on some other topics that goes along with this.
Listen, if you've listened to anything about this story, it's all been a lot of repeating things that are already said.
That's true. So let's go the idea of the diva attitude. Some people are going, hey, this isn't fair that people are criticizing Sasha Banks and Naomi, and there's some kind of like a racial element to this about, nobody was siding against Charlotte Flair when Charlotte Flair was whatever. I'd make the argument, yeah, people were complaining about the Flair thing as well. Like, it seemed like she was being positioned as like, what a diva, she's being unprofessional kind of thing.
They didn't release a public statement about it.
The statement is the thing that makes me go, because see, this is where I get into the gray area thing where I'm like, almost every side of this has some point to it. And I hate when people just militantly just go, you do not line up exactly with the way that I think, and then I can't hear your side of the argument, because the statement's the big difference there. And I don't feel comfortable with the way that WWE just threw them under the bus like that, because we've had plenty examples in the past of people taking their ball and going home, is the phrase that has been used. And very rarely do they ever actually address it. It happens sometimes. It happened with Austin, for instance. There was that weird statement that they did with Jon Moxley with the whole, like, Dean Ambrose isn't going to be re-signing his contract in a few months kind of thing. It comes off as them being hurt. Like, that they being, the Vince, Nick Khan, whoever's making these judgment calls, are feeling upset and lashing out the way that, to get into like a the psychology side of things, a lot of people do that. Hurt people is the phrase that I've heard a lot. And it's like, okay, well, we like Sasha and Naomi, and they're doing this and they're calling us out on something that probably deep down that they realize that Sasha and Naomi are right about. So the way to validate those, I'm not the wrong person here kind of feeling, is to go so over the top of no, they are the villains, fuck them, let's try to get everybody on our side to call them spoiled little brat divas who are acting like bitches backstage. I think that that's horseshit if this is all true and we're not missing elements of, like, the other part of the story is whatever, and Sasha and Naomi are actually being terrible with the way that they're treating people backstage or something. I don't believe we're feeling uncomfortable with two of the performers thing. And that phrasing even more so makes me go, this statement is just painting a picture of these two bitches didn't want to do their goddamn jobs. And that's like, I don't like it. You know?
So the wording specifically of, they're uncomfortable in the ring with two of their opponents. As Sean Ross Sapp reports, that's in reference to Asuka and Becky because they didn't want to work with them. Not because they didn't feel comfortable working with them, but because they didn't want to do something that came out of the blue, by the way, because everything that Raw was looking like anyway was looking as though it was going to be Bianca, Asuka, and Becky in a three-way at most, if not just Bianca against one of them. So that's just a complete way to spin it and say, well, we're going to say that they were uncomfortable, but they had no reason to be uncomfortable because they've had matches with everybody. What are they acting like this for?
And the phrasing, too, of uncomfortable it's just tweaked enough that everybody can speculate in a lot of different ways, and then WWE can go, we didn't say that.
Right.
Like we never said that they thought that they were bad in-ring performers or anything. Like, uncomfortable can be taken in a lot of different translations, and if you word something deceptively enough, you get people to believe so much shit. You listen to politicians on like, we got elections and stuff that come up, and it's always like, do you feel safe if you voted for whatever? And it's like, safe could be, are we going to get attacked by nuclear weapons? Are we going to lose our rights? Am I going to lose my money? All you have to do is say safe, and people go, the thing that upsets me, So the uncomfortable thing is very much like, hey, we didn't say that they thought that they were bad performers or that they were unsafe in the ring. They just didn't feel comfortable working with them.
Doing the match that night.
Right. But I think that's shitty.
But it's actively looking to sow dissension among the locker room.
Yeah, it seems like it's working, too.
Well, yeah, based on other speculation that we've heard as well, but it's just a case of, by putting that out there, you're immediately putting them in an us versus them mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And especially due to the fact that this press release didn't just go out to the public, it went into the specific wrestlers, their chat system that they have in place, where they send it out to all the wrestlers, which also means that Banks and Naomi got this message as well.
Mm-hmm. It's up on the website. It's like,
and by the way,
as far as they didn't use their real names.
That's the thing. See, when people are dissecting this, they're like, oh, but maybe it's all work because they didn't use their real names. I've heard that.
Well, let's talk about that, because that is something that people instinctively do with these days.
It's not a work.
It does not seem like it's a work. It does not seem like that.
I have no reason to believe that it is.
But, everybody goes into that whole, you never know, it could be a work kind of thing. And, a lot of the times when people do that kind of speculation, that it ends up being, okay, well, it wasn't a work, but we were just not sure because we've been burned too many times in the past and we didn't want to come off as like this dumbass Mark who believed in it. What's the Hogan quote? Jabroni Marks who worked themselves into a shoot and shoot themselves with a mark or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I love the quote, whatever it was. But, good night, Jabroni Marks who don't know a work is a work when the shoot is, I don't know. But there is also a chance that cooler heads prevail, everybody talks, they come back, and suddenly Sasha Banks and Naomi are being positioned as diva heel tag team champions, and they turn this into a work, so to speak. Obviously, the beginning of it wouldn't have been the case, but suddenly Naomi is part of the bloodline and talking about, I was being disrespected and whatever, and I need to do that. And then everybody goes, see, I told you that it was a work or whatever. And that sometimes just isn't the case. I, of course, do not think that this is some storyline. You guys agree on that one.
So I don't think it's a work whatsoever, but I do think that in the grand scheme of things, it could be turned into something that's storyline. And that's exactly the way I would see it going. I actually see Naomi coming back without Sasha if anything does happen, and they would just position her as a bloodline member and say, well, she was being disrespected and someone was in her ear, but it wasn't Sasha, it was Heyman. Because the funny thing about this is not only has everybody come out and been like, well, it was mostly Sasha, but also Cameron did an interview being like, well, Naomi wouldn't walk out unless she was being manipulated to, adding that voice into the mix, just for anyone that's thirsty enough for news on this whole subject. I think, first and foremost, good for them. Because somebody has to take a stand somewhere and go, you know what? No, you're not just going to say you're essentially carrying the tag titles, especially when, if you think about it, Sasha made it very clear. Tag titles meant a lot to her.
Mm-hmm.
She fought to have them made. And when you're looking at things, and this is me getting into the speculation on my end, when you're looking at the wrestling world as a whole, and it seems like the women's evolution stuff is kind of going back a step, I can see Sasha going, okay, no, what are we doing with the tag titles? There's all these girls. Why don't we do something with them? You know?
And I mean, people go into the whole thing of like, shouldn't you be happy that you're fighting the two world champions or whatever? Both of them have won multiple world titles. They've done it. If they're going to want to stick around and wrestle, why would you want to wrestle and just be a worthless piece of the act? They have youth. They have plenty other talents. Sasha Banks is somebody who's been in the Hollywood side of things. Like, if you're a Sasha Banks and WWE's like, hey, you should stick around and we'll do something with you. And she goes, I kind of want to make it worth my while. Give me the tag titles. And then they go, sure, you could make something of that. And then they go, but we don't really care about it. And we're going to make it to where we are going to basically use what value that we still have with your name to just sacrifice you to the world champion, because it'll mean more that she beats you than if she beats somebody else. And you're just existing there to job out when you're in arguably the prime of your career. That's why people leave and go to an AEW. They might not make the same amount of money, but they might just be like, look, I don't have to wrestle as much. I don't have to beat up my body as often. I get to hang out with a different group of friends that I don't get to see all that often. And people are interested in what I do. And I'm having fun. And I might not be, Keith Lee might not be world champion right now, but maybe he's having more fun tagging with Swerve and fighting for the tag titles than being Bearcat and beating, Shelton Benjamin on Main Event. And I completely buy into like Sasha Banks or somebody being like, maybe I'll just fucking leave then if none of this shit matters.
Yeah. And again, it's going to be a work in progress for a while. There's going to be a lot of moving parts and all that is very clear. But when you look at it on the surface, you go, it's easy to stand with them. Now, that being said, I want to tackle the unprofessional thing, because a lot of people have said, well, it is unprofessional. You're leaving so soon before the show, and they compare it to Austin. But here's the thing. Austin, they had a weekend. Like, they told him on Friday or Saturday or whatever, hey, here's what you're doing on Monday. According to their own statement, they found out when they arrived, hey, here's what you're doing, here's where we're going. There was no time to talk it out and, maybe we do this or maybe we do that. So, yeah, they had, in that case, if you want to make a statement, they had to just straight up leave. It's not the most professional thing to do by any stretch of the imagination, but they had to just straight up leave.
It is unprofessional to just like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave and you can figure that out and whatever. And that's grounds in most jobs to just be like, well, then you're fired kind of thing. Like somebody doesn't, work at Best Buy and it turns out that they're having a busy day and they go, I'm a cashier and I wasn't expecting to check out this many people. I'm just going to fucking leave and then keep their job. But we're, that's a whole other discussion about employee versus independent contractors and, all that things that we've talked about before. But like, you got to stand up for something though, because if they would have just done it, WWE would have won.
Yeah, they would have been like, yeah, you see, they're doing what we want them to. So that means that sticking point wasn't much of a sticking point.
That they really must not have cared if they went ahead and did it. Because also Vince is somebody who in the past, plenty different times, he's exhibited this kind of respect for that kind of, for lack of a better word, you have the balls to do that. It's like, all right, that asshole called me out on that. Let's push him kind of thing. I think if I were in their shoes and I go up to a John Laurinaitis or whatever, and I'm speculating on this, of course, and they just go, well, yeah, that's the plan. You got to go along with it. And you go, why is it the plan? Can you explain to me how this is supposed to be a good enough idea? And if they don't give me a rational explanation, it's just like, because that's the plan. I have never personally ever been cool with authority telling me because I said so and having that be the justification for it. I am not a super crazy rebellious type of person who, I'm going to challenge authority on every type of front, but I want an explanation for things. And I was the type of kid in like high school, for instance, that would be like, here's a random example. Of course, this has nothing at all to the strength that Sasha Banks and Naomi are doing here. But like we had a project that we did every year in high school where it was, you have to write an essay. Everybody in the entire school has to write an essay about their, whatever the topic was. It tended to be, who's your hero? And they wanted basically some kind of sob story thing so that they can get like published in a newspaper or something of like, this person was talking about this and aren't they the youth of the future is inspired by whatever. And I would write essays of like, I don't have a fucking hero. I think this is a dumb essay. I don't understand why I need to pander to this kind of thing. Everybody should nut up and do things themselves. And like some teachers would be like, hey, that's cool. You went ahead and you stood up for what you're doing. And yeah, I think that this is kind of bullshit too. And some other ones were like, you didn't follow the rules, so you're going to get a bad grade for that, whatever. And I'm like, come on, like I like it when people go, I don't believe what you're saying, and I'm not going to just fully go along with it because you're technically my superior and you're saying because I told you so. Give me a rational explanation. If you can't give it to me, you can't back it up, then we shouldn't be having this conversation because it shouldn't have been a thing to begin with. If John Laurinaitis just goes, yeah, well, that's the plan. All right, well then,
yeah, like
fuck the plan. Yeah, kind of. It's not my plan. See you later, everybody. Maybe we can reconvene at another time. Because really, realistically speaking, if we would have gotten the 6-pack challenge, we know how it would have gone down. Doudrop and
apparently
Nikki wouldn't have just been kind of taking the pin. One of those two would have lost. And supposedly Naomi would have won to set up that. So she probably would have gotten a quick pin over Nikki. And then Doudrop next week would have been like, you see, if you would have just followed my lead in the match, then you wouldn't have been the one that got pinned. And Nikki would have been like, oh, shucks. I haven't been listening to you the past 9 weeks that we've been telling this fucking story. I guess we should be a tag team.
Hold on.
No, this is going back to pre-WrestleMania.
It's not.
No.
Nikki and Doudrop have been somewhat teaming since.
Yeah, but you're conflating that. They spoke for 1 week and they had a tag team match the next week. They've been going on for 2 weeks.
This particular, like, are you going to team with me now or what thing is only these past couple of weeks, but they're referencing the fact that they had been positioned together. You guys don't pay as much attention maybe to that. You don't remember the whole Nikki and Doudrop in the 6-man tag or 6-woman tag matches. I remember
them in a 6-man tag, but I also just know that they weren't paired together to be together.
Oh, they were just paired together. I mean, like they were putting these two in that kind of position as
who the fuck cares? Can we move on to?
I'm saying
we've already diving into this like really long topic, but who cares how long Doudrop and Nikki ASH have been a team or teaming or whatever? It's really not the topic of this conversation.
Moving a little bit past that, like they want to do something, but they don't really care, and they're stretching it out. Is what they're doing, and it would have been after we get Rousey and Belair beat the 2 tag team champions. Then heading into Money in the Bank, they would have gone, hey, let's pick back up where we left off and do the Doudrop and Nikki versus the tag team champions thing. And suddenly they would have been jamming it down everybody's throats that this matters so much. And, you know, Byron Saxton or whoever on commentary would be like, oh, Nikki and Doudrop win a champions contender match. So they beat Belair and Naomi and Banks. They certainly wouldn't have beaten Belair and Rousey. And then they get their number 1 contenders shot, and then they have the tag title match at the pay-per-view, and oh my god, we don't get new tag team champions and whatever, and the prestigious tag team champions or whatever, they just fought for the other titles and whatever. It's that type of bullshit that we see a million times where it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter this week, but in 2 weeks when we are telling you that it matters, you should forget about the previous thing because we don't want you to remember about it. If Banks and Naomi knew that was coming and they're just kind of like, that's bullshit. Why don't we just have it matter now and actually matter? Then I support them on that too. Yeah.
That's exactly where I stand because I've been telling you for weeks now, okay, someone has to do something because we're getting far too comfortable with the whole nothing matters thing. So if this helps that in any way, then hell yeah, good for them.
Here's another thing to talk about this whole let's switch the plan up and whatever. Why couldn't this have been a fatal 4-way?
Because as you just talked about, they don't care about Doudrop and Nikki.
But I mean, like, you couldn't have had just, okay, well, Sasha Banks and Naomi left and we're going to throw them under the bus or whatever, but we're going to do Asuka, Becky, Doudrop, and Nikki.
It only looks bad from the standpoint of they advertised it as Doudrop and Nikki. Because realistically, what played out seems like the way they were going.
Right. They just randomly decided to do this extra thing and then say how we can't do it.
In fact, I believe Sean reported going into Monday night, the plan was singles match.
Mm-hmm.
So really, what we saw was probably what was going to happen as of Sunday night. But then they got there and were like, hey, you know what? We need an extra boost for Hell in a Cell. Again, this is me speculating. We need an extra boost for Hell in a Cell. Why don't we do the tag team champions? Because Sasha versus, Rousey will be a good match, and Naomi versus Bianca will be a good first time ever that we haven't done yet.
Or why couldn't they have, if they wanted to go, we couldn't put those other two in the match for whatever the fuck reason. I honestly don't think that there is a reason to not have them in the match. Why couldn't you have had, like, Becky Lynch take them out or something?
Yeah.
Or replace Sasha and Naomi with Alexa Bliss and Sonya Deville.
Or Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan.
Or, yeah, because it's not like you don't have them. And, you want to tell me that having the same Alexa Bliss and Sonya Deville match, we have a rematch from last week, that was a better option?
Or do they also have Mella and Vega?
Vega hasn't done anything in a couple weeks. I don't know if she was necessarily there, but Carmella is, I guess, now going to re-team with R-Truth and start fucking around with the 24/7 championship.
There is really actually a clear reason why they went with the singles match, which is a fatal 4-way can be a kind of chaotic match. And if they have had to just do it on the fly, essentially like having no time at all to prepare it, it becomes more dangerous and it becomes potential for something to go wrong because there are multiple bodies doing things at once. I'm not saying that these four aren't professionals and they couldn't have done it. They absolutely could have done. But the logical decision is, well, Asuka and Becky Lynch have just been doing the house shows in singles matches, so they can do a singles match on the fly because they've been doing it for the last two shows. So that's the easy decision. That's the safest decision, and it probably led to the best match, the best possible match that could have happened out of all the scenarios put together. So yeah, that's probably the reason why they lent towards that decision.
I would just like to have seen some sort of explanation of why, they have Becky say Sasha Banks and Naomi just left. And then they're like, by the way, fuck those two other ones. If they can put 2 seconds worth of commentary time, even if it was just, Jimmy Smith says, Naomi and Sasha Banks have left. And also, by the way, Doudrop and Nikki ASH are not medically cleared to compete, or even if it's complete bullshit, something to explain it, because that shows that you care. And I know, and I hate the way that people are going to say, they're going to go, well, why does it fucking matter? Nobody really would have cared. But I don't like when the whole it doesn't matter, move on, just accept it and forgive and forget kind of thing. I think that.
But as I've been saying lately, that's why I'm all for what's happening here, where you just, okay, make us care. Somebody has to care. Because you know what no one's shut up about the last week? Sasha Banks and Naomi and the value of the women's tag titles.
Yeah. But if you start getting too deep into it doesn't really matter, so why do you care if it's not treated with proper respect? It's just the women's tag team titles. It's just the whatever. Then it's like, okay, well then why do I care that Riddle is going to fight Roman Reigns probably down the line? He's clearly not going to win, so why should I bother to watch those 4 weeks or that pay-per-view? Randy Orton's going to fight him after that. Why should I care? He's not going to beat Roman Reigns, whatever. Shouldn't I just not watch the product until WrestleMania? Yes. I mean, if I'm trying to argue from the WWE side of things, if they go, they're not going to say yes, because that's the truth. You shouldn't.
No, they'll probably just say, "I'll do whatever you want."
Yeah,
that's
it's just
like their attitude. We're still getting paid. Who gives a shit if you tune in or not?
Because I always look at this from the perspective of, like, if somebody were to say to me, "Hey, it's just the hot tags. It's not the pay-per-view predictions for Double or Nothing. Why should I pay attention to the hot tags next week?" And I'd be like, because I'm going to try to at least make the hot tags interesting. You might not like them. I don't know. That's to be determined. I'm assuming that people are liking this edition, of course, because we're getting deep into some of these topics. But, like, maybe it doesn't all work out. And, not every match in WWE or AEW or anything is going to be the best. And, fucking Book of Boba Fett wasn't good, but I was interested. And if they would have just said, it doesn't matter, let's not even finish the CGI for some things because it doesn't matter. You know what it is. Jabba the Hutt isn't real, so he can look like shit or whatever. Then that kind of apathy just leads to people not being fans. And if Sasha Banks and Naomi are going, it doesn't matter if it's the tag team titles and you don't give a shit. We should give a shit. And WWE says no. Then drop the titles on the desk and say, all right, bring me back when you fucking care what you're going to use me for. Here's another topic to talk about, though. We didn't get into this. If Ronda Rousey was supposed to fight Sasha Banks, what do you think is going to happen tonight?
Hey, Bailey, you healthy? Hey.
Bailey is certainly one of those options if she is available. We don't know for sure, but I mean,
either that or you hot shot Raquel, or like they have options.
Well, they did the Raquel thing already last week, so unless they just, which of course, yes, I know it's WWE, they just go fucking do it again. I hate that idea. If they wouldn't have done the Raquel thing, I would have been potentially interested in that. Can't be Lacey Evans, it doesn't seem.
Shayna Baszler's the obvious choice.
I think they might not. They might not go with Baszler, even though that would be the obvious pick, because I think that they might go Natty first.
Oh yeah, I'd say one of those two because they're just the ones that you plug in when you need a heel competitor that's going to lose. Yeah, you just.
And they never did Natty versus Rousey, despite I know a lot of us were thinking that was one of the first things they would do. They never did it, did they?
They did a singles match on Raw.
Yeah.
Right, but it wasn't like a program.
Nah, not like a elongated feud leading into a pay-per-view kind of thing.
No, it was just a friendly competition match, yeah. Now Natty's a heel, they can do something that's, as I say, a program, as in, oh, Natalia's going to cut some wooden promos for a couple of weeks, and then Rousey's going to respond with some wooden promos, and then they're going to have a pretty wooden match.
Here's what I would pitch if I were in WWE right now and not fired from taking Sasha Banks and Naomi's position on this. But if I were heading into SmackDown tonight, I would go, guys, it's May 20th. We have the May 27th edition of SmackDown and then the go home show before Hell in a Cell. What the fuck do we do with Ronda Rousey? But there's not enough time. Have Natty come out when Ronda, I hate Ronda cutting a promo because she's not good at it, but yeah, better yet, avoid the Ronda promo thing. Have Adam Pearce or whatever be like, we're trying to figure out who your next challenger is, and then Natty eventually does show up and whatever, and she's like, hey, I've got won world records and blah 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 bullshit. Then you know what the match is. Next week on SmackDown, you have some sort of a tag team match. I don't know who really could fit in that slot, but Ronda Rousey plus blank against Natalya and Shayna Baszler. You teased the Shayna Baszler thing, but you're not getting it quite yet. Go home show. You've got your, hey, we're going to fight, so let's try to brawl or whatever segment. Natty versus Ronda Rousey at Hell in a Cell. Then you move on to building the Shayna Baszler thing for Money in the Bank. It's the easiest way to get the two people that are the Queen of Hearts and Queen of Spades against Ronda for the next two pay-per-views, not getting too deep into it, saving the bigger thing for building it up with Baszler, and then whatever the matches that they are going to hopefully do for SummerSlam, that's like a bigger deal. I'm assuming maybe Bayley. You got time for her to heel.
I mean, that makes sense to me. Finding an opponent for Rousey should be the easiest thing because there's still so much she hasn't done. So I'm sure they're not too concerned about that. I really think that their mentality with the Sasha Naomi thing, if it is, accurate, was, hey, this will help boost Hell in a Cell because as it stands, we don't have Roman. And we may not even have like the tag title unification thing because that appears to be going down tonight. So I think
they got nothing for Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I think that was their mentality of, if we do this, we can do matches where Bianca and Ronda are tagging, and then we can tease they're going to fight each other at some point. I see the logic. I just also stand by the tag champions going, we'll make our belts mean something. And when they say no, then it's, well, then I don't want to be here.
Short-term booking, long-term booking, totally flipped around. Instead of thinking about the things that they needed to think about well in advance, they do this kind of thing, and yeah. We got about the bias stuff. We got the statement. We got the uncomfortable thing. The only other thing that I had written down about, as far as to touch back on, was Rob's idea, saying he thinks that the tag team titles will just go away. I don't subscribe to that idea. I think that they're going to just kind of ignore them for a bit, and then either Banks and Naomi just keep the belts and we move on, or they establish that it's been vacated or something. But I don't think that they're going to get rid of them, because I think that they still just go, well, at least for PR purposes, we're going to have that. What do you think, Callum?
They'd be stupid to get rid of them just because it just gets you. It shows that that Banks and Naomi were right. If anything, this will spur them on to actually do something with it for a couple of months. They'll just say, okay, they've vacated it and we're going to run a
tournament.
run a tournament to crown the new champions, and then make it feel like, okay, we're treating this as a big deal for a couple of months, and then forget about it all over again. But yeah, I think that they'll inadvertently have spurred them on into doing something with those title belts because they want to prove that their assertions are wrong, even though by all accounts it's pretty much bang on the money.
Hey, but I'm always good with that. If Punk doesn't leave, Bryan probably doesn't main event WrestleMania.
Well, theoretically, if they vacate the titles, who do you guys think should / prediction, who would you book and who do you think will win the titles?
If we're just taking the roster they have, Nikki and Doudrop, this would be a place where I would be like, can we do the Bella thing already? Can we get like something of value? Because I'm not just saying this because of this. I've talked about it at length. I don't see them doing anything with these belts. I think it's better to cut your losses here. I really do. I understand why they wouldn't, because they're petty and it makes the other people seem right. But there's nothing going on with these belts.
I think they would just give it to Nikki and Doudrop because it makes the most sense. In an ideal world, I'd say Becky and Doudrop would make more sense.
Well, and
that'd be a stronger team.
Maybe I'd call up Toxic Attraction.
They could just unify it with the women's NXT women's one.
I would think that they probably, as far as prediction goes, they probably would just go the Nikki and Doudrop option and just go, hey, you two can twiddle your fingers and dance to the ring and be superheroes and whatever the fuck we want you to do. But there is the Natty and Shayna option. They could just do that and be like, you're reliable. You'll do whatever we want you to do kind of thing. I would want them to do something like the Bella Twins kind of angle just to kind of give it a shot of adrenaline. But you know what I'd be really worried that they would do? That I'd be like, oh God, please don't do this.
Put it on Bianca and Ronda?
No, not even that. Because, I mean, they would do that in a lot of other scenarios, but we're not close to Survivor Series. I would be worried that they would put it on Dana Brooke and Tamina. And be like, I fucking hate this whole thing with the two of them and Tozawa and Reggie and R-Truth, and now Carmella's getting lumped in there. I hate it with a passion.
Using that, but like I'm all for that because they're using them and like they have a role every week and it's a good one for their level. So I'm all right with what they're doing with those girls.
See, I look at that as I'd rather them sit at home. I don't like this shit at all. I think it's terrible. So I would be really worried that they would be like, how about you win the tag titles and then we can have all these things about the two of you. You had these two guys you were with and now the two of you, because now they're like, best buds, Dana and Tamina. I hope that that's not the direction that they end up going. But we don't know, of course, what is happening behind the scenes because we are not behind the scenes, and even people that are behind the scenes don't seem to necessarily know 100%. But SmackDown tonight should be at least a little bit of an indicator of how things are going. Maybe we get some kind of a surprise thing about like, oh, Naomi is popping up on there and she is in the bloodline and whatever, and that's a little bit less of the heat on her and more on Sasha Banks thing. Maybe we get an indication that they're doing something different with Ronda Rousey. Maybe they say, fuck it, we don't have an idea for Ronda, so she's going to sit out Hell in a Cell, and we're just going to wait and stretch things out even more, drag this crap out as long as we possibly can. SmackDown's coming up in a couple hours, and we will know more about that afterward, of course, and then we'll talk about that next week and see what other news stories pop up in the meantime, and other clarifications of what this stuff is real and what stuff's fake, and what stuff is wrong, and conjecture and hearsay and speculation and blah, 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 all the other kind of things. Objection, hearsay, whatever happens with the story. I will say, as far as the things we've heard so far, I lean more towards supporting Sasha Banks and Naomi and having WWE just wake the fuck up and start doing their jobs and putting effort into things. But again, gray area. I don't know if maybe this was something where they were approached in a better way and it does come off a little bit bratty or something. We're not going to know. So if you have any thoughts, drop them in the comments below, and we will continue talking about all these topics and more over these next few days. And you could always join the Facebook group that we've got, facebook.com/groups/themegamaniacs. And there's always discussion happening there throughout the week as well. You know, somebody will find something, they'll post it up there, and then we can get a little chat thread going. And I don't know, maybe some other posts will be up on smarkonmoment.com, so check that out. And we're going to be heading next week into Double or Nothing. So we will be talking about predictions for Double or Nothing and kind of breaking down all the things that are happening that week. Currently, the game plan for that Double or Nothing post show is maybe to do again what we did this last time around, which was to do a Double or Nothing watch along instead. I had fun doing that, and I think that it might be doable again. So, you know, if I can get these two guys on and we can kind of have that going, then try to join us for that. The way that's words. The way that you know when we go live, whatever it is, whether it's post show or during, is not only to stay tuned to smarkonmoment.com and the Facebook group and such for me to say that that's happening, but also click on that little notification email alert thing, and then you'll get an email about it, and it'll directly be like, look, they're live now, officially live. Go click on the video. This is the video, that kind of thing. But that's happening in a few days. We got some other stuff happening in the meantime. We got fanboysanonymous.com, of course, for anything that I decide to put up on there. I've got EWN and Bleacher, so you follow me at Tony Mango, you'll see whatever I'm up to. You can follow what these guys are up to as well. Rob?
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. You can check out Fightful and Fightful Select, where I'm sure there will be many updates regarding Sasha, Naomi, Stephanie, and much other ongoings in the world of wrestling. So check that out. Check out all of the articles on smarkonmoment.com, including the triple threat that I was in this week. And also check out what Callum's got going on with those awesome power rankings.
Yep, check out the power rankings over on the Smark website. It's my week-to-week contribution. Just check who's up at the top of the rankings, who's just scraping on to the bottom, where the honorable mentions are, who's leading the overall power rankings table for this year. Yep, all that great stuff's there. Go to www.fantasyleague.com to check out the Fantasy League standings, see who's getting out of us three, who's doing the best in these early stages. There's still a long way to go, but you can just follow along all the points that have been scored so far. And you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14.
Alrighty, everybody. We will see you next time around with the main event for next week, the Double or Nothing predictions. And until then, which will probably be on Wednesday or so, we'll just have fun, enjoy the weekend, be safe. Adios. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.